Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday night conflicted or what would you do series of questions with our panel discussion. And as usual, Scott Homer is our first one online. Thank you, Scott, for being here. I see Pete, Triple G Farms. He's a neighbor of mine. What a fantastic guy he is. And then we have L Dog, Little Lone Prepper, and who else here? I saw a couple more. Utah Mike, another great one. Thank you for your support, Utah Mike. L Dog. Okay, so we got the starts of a good crowd. Listen, I am very honored. I've got three people. I want one more, so I'll take your suggestions on who to invite. I've got three phenomenal people who are going to help me with some issues, and these are going to be issues that we live in a world. There's a fantastic book out there. It's called An Introduction to Ethics by Jeffrey Thomas. And he says there's 5 problems with ethics. And number one problem is we don't take into account the problem of relativism. And that's what we're going to be discussing for the next however long we do this, is everything is relative when we get into a post-apocalyptic world. So there aren't the absolutes that we have in our ethical minds today may not exist as absolutes in a post-apocalyptic world. It may be a whole bunch of gray, more gray than black and white. So that's what we're going to tackle here. We're going to get some very tough questions. We're going to see what we can do to wrangle with that in our minds. I've got some fantastic minds to help me sort this out. So I've got Tamara Lightheart, who is the CEO of preppingcommunities.com.
Yeah.
And so she's joining us from Western Canada. I've got John Grammer, the author of the America Overrun series. You probably recognize him and remember him because we get the privilege and the honor of interviewing him each time he puts out a new book and highlighting that book here on the channel. So thank you for that honor, John. And his wife, Tammy, I hope, their channel on YouTube is Salt Creek Living, and you may recognize his wife Tammy, who also is a portion of that YouTube channel. She may pop in and say hi. We don't know. Hopefully she will. We also have Heather Ruth, who is in charge of prepping for the long term on Facebook. It's a 35,000 member survival channel. And but unfortunately, she had a gardening accident today and is injured. And so we pray for her rapid recovery. She won't be with us this evening, but as soon as she gets well, she'll be joining us in the future. Cook Bee Farmer, good evening. Welcome. Good to see you. So I would like to give each of these honored guests an opportunity to just let us know a little bit about who they are, where they're coming from, a little bit of their preparedness philosophy. And we're going to start off with Tamara from the West Coast of Canada.
Well, thank you for having me, Lee. I'm honored. We started prepping. My husband and I started prepping. Well, my husband, I'm going to give him credit. He started prepping a long time, like a lot longer than I did. He started much earlier. And this was just before 2020. I'd say that around 2016, 2017, he started prepping, and then 2020 hit and he really started prepping. And 2020 for me was a big wake up call. That's when I really woke up. I kind of came, he was much farther ahead than I was at that time. And that was for me like I was rattled. And I knew at that time that, I couldn't rely on the current system. I couldn't rely on the way that things were. And so I started to learn more about why we prep. And we're more of, I wouldn't say, as much as we would love to live off grid, we're not capable of doing that right now, because my husband, who actually is my business partner for Prepping Communities, he's the one who designed and developed our platform. He works in technology at a very high level. So he's very more at a very high architecture level and technology. He's worked on many different systems in different areas, anywhere from like the banking system, and he's just very in the know. So he actually was waking me up and saying, "Hey, Tam, like it's not always going to be the way that we see life as it is today." I mean, I was born in the 70s, and life is very different today than it was then. And so we created a platform called Prepping Communities, and we started this platform approximately 3 years ago. And it all started, we went for a hike. We were living on the island at the time, and we were talking, and we were, as being in Canada, there's a lot of people right now that are struggling, and it's going to get worse. And we were thinking, like, what's going to happen to people that don't have anywhere to go? They have nobody, not everybody has their people, not everybody has a community that they belong to, and not everybody in their family understands why they prep. And again, I go back to 2020, but there's a lot of division. And so a lot of people feel alone. And so we went on this hike, and we were walking back, and I said, I bet you there would be people out there that own large plots of land that would be willing to, I don't know, even I wouldn't even say lease it. I would say allow people to build on their land as long as they shared the same mindset. And so we were talking, and he said, like a prepping community. And I said, yeah, like a prepping community. And that's how our platform was
Wow.
it started. And that's how it started. And it really just started with the posting directory. And right now we're probably close to 10,000 postings, and postings can be anything from like an article to an intro to, say, like one of your books, John, or a video, anything on prepping, homesteading, and self-reliance. And then it grew into, we brought in news and awareness, which is Prepper Watch. So we source out hundreds of news sources, and definitely not mainstream media, because I believe that being prepared is also being prepared of the global events and that will determine where you're at in your prepping journey, I believe. And so I do think being aware in that area is super important. So we brought in Prepper Watch. And then once Prepper Watch was done, then we allowed the capability for like citizen journalists to be able to let other preppers and other people, anybody who wants to be self-reliant in the community, know what's going on in their area. And then brought in interactive maps where you can, like, anywhere that you can, if you want to know the best places to live off grid in North America or around the world, it's on there, or the best place to forage, or posting a member map. So, and our members, you can come on and you can be as anonymous as you want, or you can put out as much information as you want. And then we brought in groups and discussions, and then we brought in events, so you can add your event, and it's just growing and growing. And it really just started because we genuinely want people to be able to find their people, because the world is, there's a lot going on in the world, and we don't think anybody should have to do it alone. And we don't charge. Membership is free. So every day I put out a couple of videos. I do one for prepping communities, one for Prepper Watch, and my husband, he handles all of he designed it all on his own. And he's very much involved in artificial intelligence and very in the now. So he's really the one that I would say, like, got me into prepping. And all these things would be arriving. I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, more and more. And he'd be like, I'm telling you. And I got to just tell you, I know I'm talking a lot, but I do have to tell this one story. We were in Alberta at the time, and there was a power outage. And it was like 38 degrees, and the humidity index was like through the roof. And all of a sudden the power went out. And he brought in that generator and plugged it in, and everything started going, and our fridge was safe, our freezer was safe, everything was okay. And we had we were without power for 24 hours. But had we not had that generator, we would have been hooped. So anyways, that's I kind of laughed. So I said, okay, I will never, ever, ever second guess you again. And so that's kind of where we're at. That's our prepping journey. Like, we'll hunker down. We are prepared. And we're kind of like the gray man. We don't really put what we have out there But we really do believe in community and finding your people and making sure that if anything ever did happen, we would be ready, and that we would be able to help our family and help anybody that we could trust and that we vetted to make, because there's going to be people out there that are not ready.
So I don't think I've been a member of the channel for a year yet. It's just under a year.
It's the channel, the platform is, we've been building it. And I would say we probably just started actively promoting it really about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And we just started to get the channel going. So I've just started, I started with Prepper Watch, and now I'm also doing prepping communities. So they're two different things. Prepper Watch is just some top reports of current events of what's going on that I think people should be aware of every day. And then
just added a fantastic comment. He said, finding people isn't a problem for him. Finding the right people is the problem.
That's right. That's right.
And so
I think it's important that you vet those people, because there's going to be a lot of people out there that's my biggest fear, is if something really bad happens, and I pray it doesn't, but if it ever does, my fear is the people, because some people just are not going to be able to handle the pressure.
Speaking of which, and vetting, and just happenstance happening along upon people who are escaping your enemy and are trying to get your trust to tell you that the enemy really is your enemy and they aren't part of it, but they're going to help protect you from it. The author of that concept in his newest book is our other guest, John Grammer. So John, with the America Overrun series, and husband to the wonderful Tammy, who happens to be online as Salt Creek Living. So if you see Salt Creek Living, that's John's wife, Tammy. And but anyhow, John, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I grew up here in Utah in the western part of the Rockies, Wasatch Mountain, Wasatch Front is what we call it here. My wife Terry and I, her name's Terry, not Tammy.
I'm sorry. What?
We just celebrated 30 years together. I never really considered myself a prepper because it's always been our lifestyle. The way that my day job has been served. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always had some sort of business going. There's always lean times. So we would always stock up to get through the lean times. And so that's always just been our lifestyle. So I never considered myself a prepper until I got started, realizing what I actually started doing when things started arriving. And my wife's like, what are you doing? But I've always been good at, I consume a lot of knowledge, watching the news, reading books, and I've always been good at kind of putting dots together, what may or may not happen. And that's kind of where my thoughts on my books is if something's going to happen, how's it going to happen realistically? So dealing with broken machines and appliances, I'm always having to think critical on that, putting those things together. And that's where my thought process is on my book is it's all fiction. It's all made up. I mean, if you look at a map, you can kind of follow the stuff, but it's not even geographical. It's kind of made up. And I like that. I like thinking what if scenarios. Terry and I started Salt Creek Living a few years ago. It started out as Salt Creek Farmstead. We're an urban lot. We have a 30-acre. We live next to a freeway. So when we moved in, we've always had, what if there's a spill or something and we have to take off? We've always had that mindset. We started out with raising rabbits. I have a problem with processing uric acid, and that helps with one of the few meats that doesn't have a lot of uric acid in it. And then it just kind of went from there. She has always been a gardener. And then I said, you ought to start filming on YouTube and doing that. And it took me a couple of years to get her going. And then when I wrote the books, the YouTube was hers, the books was mine, and it was kind of like hers and mine. And then we just realized they were the same thing, and that's when we became Salt Creek Living. And so that's our mindset is hunker down as long as you can, if you can. We don't have any other option. I don't have land. I don't like people, period. So I don't have a good big group of people that I interact with. I don't trust people very often. Like
Yeah.
my mindset is I don't trust you until you give me a reason to trust you. That's always been my mindset. Being in business and things like that, it's just the way that I'm wired now at 50 years old. But when I was younger, it wasn't that way. But so our prepping mindset is our YouTube channel. We focus on what we call practical prepping. That first 90 days,
Okay.
because unless you have a catastrophic collapse or something like that, 90 days in most situations it will be resolved in some fashion, where you're either getting help or something. You're not going to be just solely relying on yourself. So that's what our focus is on our channel, and kind of where that's where we call it practical prepping. And
Terry, I'm going to beg your forgiveness. I am so sorry that I got your name wrong. I'm sitting here staring at Tamara on the screen. So I really apologize for that. But let me tell you something about everybody. Please subscribe to Salt Creek Living. Terry has done I've learned a lot about canning, and then of course John has done some. What would we call that? The ugliness of making sausage videos, John?
Yeah.
Meat
the one I'm
processing.
working on right now is we're doing jerky right now. That's the video I'm working on right now.
So
but yeah, it's just we focus more on skills than stocking and gear. That's kind of the focus of our channel. Yeah, we do reviews and we do gear, but it's mostly skills that we try to focus on, because that's, in my mind, that's everyone's hole. A lot of people's holes is their skill set.
Yeah.
That's one thing that can't be taken from you. And it's one thing that's going to add value to your continued existence in a post-apocalyptic world.
And you can always put value on skills. You can always barter your skills if a situation arises. But I mean, that's kind of how I've always lived my life, is just, if I couldn't find a job, I made one. I figured out what can I do and made a way to monetize it. And so that's kind of our focus is on the skills, because we think a lot of people just kind of overlook that. Everyone has something they overlook, and sometimes it's calm, sometimes it's water, but almost everyone could do better on skills.
Every one of us has at least one blind spot. And there's one of my favorite learning models is the Dunning-Kruger effect. And I think we see that really prominent amongst preppers. And the Dunning-Kruger effect says that if you don't know that much about something, you consider yourself an expert in it, because you don't understand the depth and breadth of the subject. So kind of when it's the unknown, then you think you know everything there is to know about it, because you don't know anything about it. But then there's this cliff that you fall off of when it becomes the known unknown. And they call it the cliff of despair. And then as you start working your way up towards knowledge, people who know a lot about a subject have a tendency to underemphasize their knowledge, because they're now aware of how much more knowledge there is to gain, so they consider themselves inadequate. So underachievers overclaim, overachievers underclaim. How's that for the Dunning-Kruger effect?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, guys, thank you very much for letting us know a little bit about you. Let's see what we can do to tackle this question. So tonight we're going to do the Deuce of Clubs. So for those of you who don't know, the conflicted cards, it's a series of 52 cards, ace through the king of clubs, diamonds, hearts, and spades, just a regular deck of playing cards. This is volume 2. I just got volume 1 in the mail yesterday. I had to go to eBay to find it. It is sold out on the conflicted.com website. I believe they're up to 8 different decks now with different questions in a post-apocalyptic world. Strongly recommend you give them your support and buy a deck of cards. Work it through with your family. Work it through with the members of your group, and just say, what are we going to do if? So tonight's question is the Deuce of Clubs. A total collapse of modern society has happened. Now it's time to rebuild. What kind of government would be best to help rebuild society? Would it be centralized or decentralized? Who wants to start off?
I can go first if you want. I don't
Sure.
care. I personally, in a country the size of America, where we actually essentially we have 50 separate countries that are united as one, basically. That's, and some of those states are even like, you look at Washington and Oregon, where the eastern part of the state is one philosophy, and the western side doesn't even want to be part of their state. I think it's only in the immediate aftermath of rebuilding, it's going to be centralized, and I think it's going to be very centralized into like cities, and then go, as time goes on, it'll go further out. Whether it's the right choice or not, I mean, we do have our American Constitution as framework, but I think in the immediate rebuild, it's going to be really localized.
Yeah.
Cameron?
I personally, I would think like right after a collapse, I think it would maybe map out in like phases. So I think like the first phase, it would be decentralized, being that, everything's broken, infrastructure is down, the supply chains are fragmented, trust is low, security is like uncertain. So I think in that environment, a highly centralized system probably doesn't work very well, because there really isn't a functioning national system to centralize, right?
Sorry to interrupt. That's exactly what I was thinking. I got it backwards.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what cities, then state. Like it's gonna be like. Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, to interrupt.
No.
I got it backwards. Yeah. When I was thinking centralized, I was thinking like.
Yeah.
Your core group of families and friends, and that's what I was thinking. But
for sure, like because I don't think like the big government would be able to. I don't think the big government would be able to come in and help at the local level. It's just too much, I think, right? So,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, because if you think about the size of America and the population, we are 85 times population bigger than the Roman Empire was.
That's
and
crazy.
We're about 5 times bigger. We're about 3 times bigger, I think, at area-wise in its height of it. So this continent is huge. And it's for them to be, if it was completely collapsed, they wouldn't have the infrastructure to do it.
Totally, right?
And the military probably wouldn't be intact to help either. So it would have to be local.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think like your communications would be down, enforcement mechanisms would be weak, transportation would definitely be unreliable. So I agree, like decentralization in the beginning for the first phase, I think would definitely make more sense. And then like the local communities would organize themselves, like community councils and local, like there'd be local food distributions and local security groups, I think. I don't know. I think that it'll be like the local knowledge will matter the most. Well, and that's where I think finding your people will be really important.
And I think if you look at it really in our life today, it's the town council or city council or whatever, that affects our lives the most anyways. And then you go, 100%. States or province government or county. In America, it's county government, then states. So the further you get out, the less that it actually affects your life anyways. And so it'd have to be rebuilt from that way out.
Yeah.
I don't think we would stand for it to just have everyone come in that live in Washington and 2,000 miles away,
right,
and force us to live a certain way that now is not even close to what we were living before.
Yeah,
of a total collapse. If it was just like a partial economic collapse or something like that, it would be a different story.
Yeah, we just moved from the city. So we moved from a city of about 1.5 million people to a town of 7,000 people. And it's like going back 20 years. I mean, it's so different. So I would imagine like the people that I'm getting to know in this town, to your point, they wouldn't stand for people coming from the big city and coming in and just saying, hey, this is the way we're going to run things. People be like, no, 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 no. This is the way we're going to run things. So I definitely think like when you think about that for decentralization, I think that even here, I don't even think big government would stand a chance. I think people would just be like, no, we're going to handle it on our own. This is our opportunity to sort of manage things effectively on our own. It's a very different life.
Utah Mike asks a very interesting question. Let's see what he has, how you all react to this. And it's, who's controlling the military?
Oh, that's a good question,
Depends
actually.
it depends on how it collapsed, I think. Well, and the way it's set up in America is we have, each state has its own militia, which is the National Guard. So if the state infrastructure is set up, maybe the governor for the local. But I don't know. I mean, that depends on, was it a war? Was it a nuclear attack? Was it a financial collapse? What caused it to total collapse would have a better answer on that. But it would, you know, I think the governors of each state will definitely be in charge of their National Guard. That's how it's set up. But beyond that, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question.
In Canada, it's very different. First of all, our military is incredibly weak. You know, no disrespect to our military. I feel for them, but we would rely on the United States for military. I can't see Canada. Our military just is not strong enough. So our military, I don't even think we would have enough resources in the military to come in and do martial law if that's what they were going to do. How would people become organized?
It would have to be contracted through
You're on a roll.
Oh no, I mean, it's such a good question. To be honest, I really feel that I think if this really did happen, I think I can only speak for people in Canada, okay? But I think people in Canada that are awake would be like, this is our time to make things right. I don't think that they would allow the military to come in and say, we're going to help organize. I think it would, in my opinion, I think it would be the opportunity to turn it around.
I think the province just east of you is got a secession referendum going, doesn't it?
Oh, that's Alberta. Absolutely. And we're in British Columbia. But we're in the interior of British Columbia. It's very different than the lower mainland of British Columbia. The lower mainland of British Columbia is incredibly woke, and they'll go every which way the government says you got to go. The people in the interior, absolutely not. They're more in alignment with Alberta and separating. Canada is very divided. And it's because, I'm just going to say it, our government is atrocious. Look at who we have leading us. So I think that people in our area would turn around and say, oh, no. We're going to turn this and we're going to flip it on you.
That's what I think. Use it as a way to become independent.
I think so.
Their own independent.
I think so. And that's where even like when we moved here and we started to get to know in where we were living, because we were in Alberta, but we had to move out here. And I didn't even know my neighbors. And we moved out here December 1st, and our neighbor comes over and gives us a beautiful box of chocolates and didn't even know who they were. But the more that my husband has got to know them and that I've gotten to know them, they're the type of people that I'm very grateful to have as my neighbor. They're my type of people. So when I think about finding my people, I would want them on my side. Because I think at this point, people in Canada are going to get to the point where they're going to be like, we have nothing to lose. So you know what? We're going to flip it around. And I think that that's what we'll see. There'll be some cities that, like Ottawa and like Ontario and provinces that will stick with the government. But a lot of people, if you say, hey, I'm for, I believe that Alberta should separate. I believe Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and parts of British Columbia which should separate. You got people that are like, yeah, for sure. And then you got people that look at you and like you got 10 heads because they're still caught up in, they think that the government's going to come and save them, but they have no idea that it's just not going to happen. You got to prepare. And so those people are the people that scare me because they would not be prepared. But the people in my area here in this town, they're the type of people that I feel more secure here than I did in the big city, because I think in the big city, a lot of them just, they don't see it.
So on
I
the subject,
think those.
Sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I think those types of people are also, when you look at history, those are the ones that turned in their neighbors. In when you look at Nazi Germany or the USSR, those are the types of people that do that. So
yeah,
you can't have that such a different mindset and have a situation like this happen, or it's just going to be catastrophic.
And in Canada, I'm sorry, Lee, in Canada, we have those pockets of people, those pockets of areas that would call in. Like even during 2020, my neighborhood, man, people were watching you. Like the people were calling in their neighbors. People were finking on everybody, tattling. Like even on Christmas, when people wanted to visit with their families, people would call in, and like it's bad. And I agree with you. It's people will do that. They'll turn in your neighbors, and those are the people that scare me. Those are the ones that make me really nervous.
So another one of my old friends, Texas Redleg, has joined us, and welcome. There were three of us that kind of got started together. He and Pete Rodriguez and I, and but anyhow, he is a former nuclear weapons specialist in the Army, and then when we did away with that, I guess I was in Stuttgart when that happened, about '86. He became a military policeman and a criminal investigation CID agent. So he's giving some advice here in the comments. So for those of you who don't know Texas Redleg, he knows his stuff. He's ex-CID as well as ex-nuclear. So he can give you some opinions there that are really worth it. Let's tackle this one here from Natural Born Prepper. How would people become organized? If our technology is gone, could we still use some sort of technology to organize?
You want to go first, or you?
I sure. I feel like I'm kind of monopolizing the conversation here. I think that this is kind of where our platform comes in handy, because that's what our platform is really built for. It's built for this situation. And would our technology be gone, and could we still use technology to organize? That's a really good question, because it would depend on like, would the 5G towers still be available, or if they're going to be 6G, would the data centers be up and running? And I mean, I think that there's a lot of variables to that question. But I think that that's why right now, before it gets to that point, you have to have your community. It's really, I can't stress it enough. I think it's really important that people find their group, they vet them. And I think that there's going to be, like, when you vet your groups, there's going to be all different levels. Like you were saying, John, like skills, and Lee, you were saying skills cannot be replaced. That is the number one thing, is skills. And my husband, who is like very much a technologist, he grew up with a single mother raising 5 kids, but it was all about gardening, canning, and being able to like fix your own car and fix your own lawnmower and do all of these things. And that is what he has instilled in myself and our kids. And at the end of the day, like, you're going to have different levels in those groups, but there are going to be people that don't have anybody. And so even though they may not be able to bring skills to the group, there are going to be people out there that are going to be willing to learn, and they will do anything, and they'll be loyal to that group just because you brought them in and you could trust them. But like, to this question, how would people become organized? Would our technology be gone? I think it would depend on the level of the apocalypse. Like, I think it would depend on on what happened. I mean, if it was if it was like a 20 out of 20 apocalypse, there might not be any technology at all in the meantime, or like, so I'm not sure we could still use technology at that point, but I think right now we need to be using technology to meet our people, to get people to organize and communicate and form their groups.
John, you've written about this in your books, America Overrun. So,
yeah, I was going to say the satellites will still be working even if we have an EMP, unless it was, right above the satellite. So there will still be some sort of satellite communication. Equipment on Earth will it be running? We don't know.
Yeah.
What I do know is the American government or the U.S. government has enough technology deep enough in enough bunkers that, and the elite do too, that they will have the technology to communicate.
Yeah.
And they will have the technology to organize their people. And that's what scares me, is because that's when the totalitarians come out. But on a local level, it depends on, like, if it was an EMP or whatever, and where was your stuff, and what you have. I mean, old analog equipment, if you've got it, I would still keep it because it's easier to use than the digital radios and things like that. But going to be a lot of runners, a lot of horses if it's an EMP. Gas, as long as if gas isn't being produced.
Yeah.
I mean, like in Utah, we've got 6 refineries in Utah, but if the pipelines are shut down, you only have so much that they can refine, even if they're working.
I don't think people realize the amount of electrical power that is necessary. It takes a power plant to run a refinery.
Oh yeah.
So
and then it takes even more to run these AI data centers.
Yeah.
Oh, these AI data centers. That's a whole other conversation. Like, wow, they're opening them up. There's a big thing in New Mexico right now about a big protest about BlackRock going in and buying up one of the largest utilities for a data center, and that the people keep getting stuck with the bill. It's not going to be them.
I think with the technology question, in order you bring it down to on a lower level to yourself, the best way to prepare for that is to have your own electrical generation system, whether it is solar, which I don't think is quite there yet, but it's good enough. If you can do hydroelectric, whatever, as technology gets better for a personalized power plant, that's one way to prepare, but also keep your core electronics protected. One of the things I tell everyone to get when I go out on a service call and their control board on their appliance is fried because they had a lightning storm or something, as I tell them to get a whole house surge protector. They're about $150, $200 at Home Depot. And if you don't want to put it in yourself, it's probably a $500 install. But it really helps with any of the power surges on the system. And when we have a collapse of the grid, it could surge the system at some point, and then everything in your house burns up like a lightning strike. It could also go the other way, but it at least will protect some of it. It's a cheap insurance.
Yeah. My husband put in one of those, like an EMP protector on our car. So if something happened, our car would be protected. And he's got all this.
Has anyone tested those to see if they actually work? Because they seem like they should be way more expensive than they are for protecting your car.
He did this about 4 years ago. He put it in there, and then he also put a power switch in our garage. He had somebody come in and install one of those power switches, so if anything ever happened, we had that. And then like an EMP bag had that just to protect our phones, and I guess that sort of stuff. Like I said, he is really, he's got everything. It's all, it's insane. So, but yeah.
So Tamara, let me ask you a personal question real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know this guy, this natural born prepper?
Do I? Yes, I do. That's my husband.
Can you tell I spent 21 years in intelligence? I can deduce the obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. He put that on there, I'm sure, to just to test me, just to see, hey, are you paying attention? Have you learned anything that I taught you?
Well, before we get into Pete's question here with Triple G Farms, I'd just like to point out for those of you who don't realize it that and also there have been some people who've come in late. So let me reissue the question that we're discussing from the Conflicted Cards series. And so we're working on the Deuce of Clubs. A total collapse of modern society has happened. And now it's time to rebuild. What type of government would be best to help rebuild society, centralized or decentralized? And so we've come to the agreement that it's going to be decentralized at first, and then maybe coalesce as we progress out of whatever that is. To kind of set aside just a separate thing that people, I think, overly worry about martial law.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back historically. Texas is larger than France. Okay. The Germans had 30 divisions in France and could only effectively control about 80% of the country. The United States reserves, National Guard, and active duty Marine Corps don't have 30 divisions. So if ours can't even control Texas, what makes you think that the martial law, the military, will be able to control the size of the United States?
That's a good point.
It just isn't going to happen. So having
Not
said
from
that,
the federal, I don't think it would happen from the federal level, but I think maybe in certain instances, in certain places, the local level will do it, because like New York City has 40,000 cops.
Yeah.
Just there.
Well,
I mean,
yeah. They laid off 5,000.
Yeah. So I mean, they're on a local level, especially in some of these rural counties, they can pull it off, but they won't be as totalitarian, I don't think, as they would as when everything's martial law. They think of because the country was under martial law during the Civil War.
Right.
People don't realize that, but people were going about their lives as normal. It just suspended certain things of the Constitution. So there's certain ways to do that. But I think on the local level, and especially some of the rural counties, at least where I live, I think it would be more, instead of it being more for control, it would be more for the helping, making sure everybody has what they need, and not letting people be taken advantage by the criminals and those. At least in my area, I know that's going to how it's going to go. Okay. And just because I know the type of people that live around here, and our sheriff here, and that kind of thing. But on a national level, there's no way in hell they're going to have a military be able to pull that off, ever. Yeah. And we have too many people.
So we can kind of combine this question from Triple G Farms. In a collapse scenario, who would be controlling the nukes? I assume whoever owns them will be running the majority of the show. We can kind of combine that with who will be running the military. And so as I look at Texas, we have Texas and California are the two most heavily populated military states in the United States. So we've got almost 50% or more of all of our military assets are in Texas and California. And so I would venture to say that they would probably fall under the state's control simply because of the loss of federal control should something happen, should a real catastrophe happen. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. And it also, if something that catastrophic happens, in my opinion, because the U.S. is such a prime piece of real estate in the world, other countries are going to take advantage of it. So we're more worried about China.
Yeah.
I don't think Russia's even close to big enough to do anything unless they nuke us. But China has enough manpower, even though they don't have as technological as our military does. But I'd be more worried about that kind of thing happen and taking over our nukes than who's in control, whether the feds or the locals. But I think you're right, though. It scares me that most of our military is in California, the way that government is. But yeah, I think it's the whoever's in charge of the bases there, the force, if they've got 4 stars, or I don't know how it's structured. I really haven't done enough research, but I think they're the ones that are going to be controlled locally on it, and depending on their mindset and if they refuse to take orders from someone in Washington,
Yeah.
Yeah, a division is the normal unit, let's call it, that is going to be deployed. Well, actually, you can deploy as far down as a battalion, which is typically going to be 1/16 of a division. But division has got a 2-star in charge of it, and the battalion has a lieutenant colonel. So quite a difference between the two. A brigade, that's where we get the word brigadier from. A brigade typically has either a bird colonel or a brigadier general in charge of it. So, but yeah, it's something else. Okay, golly, guys, any more questions? We're coming up on an hour. Can you believe it's already gone?
It's going by so fast.
Wow. What a toughie. So I had asked the question ahead of time that, and I forgot, what did I do with it? I wrote it somewhere and I put it down. Do anybody remember the extra question that I asked?
Leadership. Like
Leadership.
what kind of leadership?
What would you look for in a leader of so assuming we have local control, what would you look for as qualities in the leader that you would elect to have control over your group or over your area?
For me, it would be somebody who's, first of all, really calm under stress, like number one, not reactive and not ego driven, and a real community oriented thinker, and prioritize like group survival over personal power. For me, I think that would be really, really important. Somebody who can really stay calm under pressure and delegate. Okay, so and keep the group organized. Mm-hmm. For sure, because I think that when some people, as much as we want to admit that we can stay calm under pressure all the time, we can't always. Some people are just going to have a natural human reaction to just like collapse. They're just not going to know what, they could react in a negative way. They could just be emotional. They could be angry. We don't know. So somebody who can really, really grab the reins of that group and that can just gain respect right away. That would be really important for me, as far as leadership goes. John? And somebody who's experienced. Sorry, John, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but somebody who's experienced, that has a lot of experience in preparedness.
Okay.
I tell you who I won't. The first things I will say no to, and that's any senator or congressman.
Amen to that.
Most mayors are I mean, like anybody that's had that, they're going to be the ones that are going to come up front and say, I'm the leader, but that just because they got elected. But they're not. I mean, most of our congressional leaders aren't leaders. They just got elected because someone hated the person that was there before them.
Yeah.
So that's who I would say absolutely not to, but that will probably end up who it would be, because they'll probably try to have some sort of election and they're the popular ones. To me, I look for people who, like you said, don't bend under stress, do the right thing. The biggest thing for me is do the right thing when no one's looking.
Yeah.
Who were they and what did they do before the collapse? How did they handle the collapse? And if they ask people in the community or whatever to do something, do they do it? How do the people in the community respect them and not? Because respect isn't, the old school was, you got to be feared to be respected. That was like the old school. No, that's not how it is. That's just fear. But someone who's earned the respect of them. But then you go up. How do you go from your town leaders or your group, and then you get a little bigger, and you go to your county leaders. In my county right now, I can tell you right now, it's probably going to end up being the sheriff, because the people in our area really respect the sheriff.
Oh, that's good.
And they don't respect the county council, but the sheriff has earned their respect because he kind of cleaned things up.
Is there anything in particular you can put your finger on as to why they respect your sheriff?
Because he cleaned things up. We had a bad county prosecutor that was a Soros prosecutor.
Oh, geez.
He let the cartel get a foothold in our county, and he's compassionate, but he is a no nonsense. He's a law and order guy, but he's really compassionate too. So he's earned the respect. He's actually he had a season on A&E 60 Days In. So if you ever want to see who he is, it's Sheriff Smith on that. But I don't have any interaction with him, but from what I've seen, people here respect him. I can't put my finger on why, but I can tell you he's cleaned it up a lot. Got a lot more to do. But compared to other counties, we've come a long way. And so I can tell you he's really good on Second Amendment, and he's really good on personal liberties, things like that. So I think that county-wise, he would be the one that people would gravitate to here. But I don't think beyond that, it would be like a free-for-all.
Watching the comments, I think Utah Mike wants to grab him away from you and take him up to Salt Lake City. So,
oh yeah, they got a couple of bad people up there that are not doing so good. And the thing is too is, and he in a statewide thing, if the state stays together, he may be the one that ends up being leader over the state if it ends up being like a situation like that. I don't think it'd ever do that, but I also think in my area, and I hate to say it, but I know the Mormon Church is a huge influence here, and I think, which isn't a bad thing. I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing, but the leadership structure is going to be the people who gain the leadership in my area, or people who respect. It's going to be their bishops and their stake presidents and the people like that. That's going to be the immediate that people gravitate towards, because the way that we're set up here in our area is each ward has an emergency preparedness person.
Uh-huh.
And they hand out all these booklets. It's part of the culture of the Mormon Church is preparedness. And so that you have that local person, any question you have, you can just call this guy, and then they have the Bishop Storehouse. You can buy food from there. Most people don't think you don't have to be a member of the church to do that. You can just go there and buy the canned food, the dried food.
The same thing with the Provident Living Store.
Yeah, and so the way that just because of the nature of the church, the way it's set up is, I think it's going to go more of a church level here, on the way, and then kind of go out to more of the community leaders. But the church works with the communities here a lot. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but in our area, that's how it's done. In other areas, I don't know if the Mormon Church would be a part of that at all. Even in like Idaho or Arizona, where we call the Mormon Corridor, Mexico up to Canada, Utah, Idaho, Arizona, was where the Mormons settled the area. There's a lot
that's
more
pretty
Mormons.
much addressed in Kirkham and Ross in their book. What is it, Blue Dawn? They address
Black Autumn.
Huh?
Black Autumn.
Black Autumn. They address the influence of the church and corrupt politicians.
See, I purposely left that stuff out of my books for two reasons. One, I didn't want to get sued by the church, and two, I didn't want to limit my readership to people who don't like Mormons.
Right.
So it's, even though I know it's going to go different than the way I put it in my books, that's why I left it out. But yeah, it's just there's some political things that they like to sue people, talk about bad about them. So
we have another spot test question for you, Tamara.
Well, this is interesting because in Canada right now, see, I don't think people like, I'm like you, John, I don't trust anymore. I was so opposite of who I am now before 2020. In 2020, I really changed, and I really don't trust the system anymore. I don't trust our government officials anymore. And I would think, even just like, especially being in a smaller town now, I don't think that the people would allow an elected official to lead at all. I think because they're more installed. I don't even believe in our elections anymore. I don't believe that. I'll always go and vote because I feel like I have to go and vote. It's my right. But I feel that the elections are controlled. So I think if it was like, if we were in a post like, apocalyptic scenario, I think it would be our opportunity to reverse it and get them out, because you can't really get them out right now because they just keep getting installed. And I like, China controls Canada. So we really don't have anybody, even if we have a few elected officials that really do want to work for the people, they're not going to be able to get anywhere. They're just not, because it's so it's like the deep state, right? It's so controlled. It's like, you hear about the deep state, and I always thought it was just more in the United States, and then I started to wake up and I'm like, no, 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 that's Canada too. So I for me, I'm like John. I wouldn't want an elected official. In your situation, you've got the sheriff, and I think that's great. But in our situation, even our mayor here in this small town is corrupt. So I think that this would be our opportunity to flip it and say, no, 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 no. We want this person and this person. And I don't think that they would stand a chance. So
from what I've seen, and I haven't studied Canada a lot since 2020, is Canada is like the U.S. was in 1775 right now.
yeah.
I mean, that's basically what I've seen. I mean,
Yeah,
there's the two major things you don't have that America has, is why it wouldn't work, is you don't have a Second Amendment and you don't have
that's right.
a First Amendment.
That's
You
right.
don't have freedom of speech, and you don't have the right to defend that freedom of speech. And that's,
Yeah.
I think, the only reason you're still under the crown right now.
That's just it. Like, if you were to ask people like me, we would be happy to say, see you to the crown, like, get rid of it. We need a constitution. We don't have that. And so, I mean, I don't want to get off topic too much, but if you were to ask a lot of people, if Canada was to become like the 51st state or what have you, a lot of people would say, yeah, this is what we want. The media would tell you no, but the people in the know and the people that, like me, would say, no, 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 that's not true. We want to be part of that. So we want a constitution. We value the Second Amendment and we value the First Amendment. And right now, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to get Lee's channel demonetized, but right now they're coming after us for us who believe in the Second Amendment. And they're trying to take that away from us, those items. And we're just like, this is going to turn into a fight, and it's not going to be pretty. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we are preparing for that. So yeah, I think if we had to choose a leader, it would definitely not be an elected official.
I think you're also going to have the local communities having to form their own militias.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, if you ever watch that show Jericho, I mean, that was the first thing they had to do, and it was only like 10 people in the show, right? I mean, their town wasn't that huge, but they had to have some sort of security force. Yep. I think locally it would probably start out with your local cops if they live in the town, but most of them are going to go back to where they live to protect their family anyways. Yeah. So it's going to have to be, and that's why I say the sheriff would probably, in our area, I think he would be the one the type of person he is he would be the one to set that up and kind of lead the security force and militia there to keep everyone safe. But yeah. And then I think it would kind of morph into that. But I think you're going to have, every town is going to have its own independent government. Yeah. It's going to have to do it first. That's going to be the first thing. Yeah. And then as the years go on, depending on, you get better assessment of how bad it was or whatever. And then I think it'll come back to more of a wider one, but it will never go back to these huge continental governments that we have. There's just too much geographic space to do that if we got to collapse. I think it's a fluke that it happened in America the way that it happened, just because we bought so much land from other countries and it wasn't settled at the time. So as they settled it, then they wanted resources from the federal government, so that they became states. And that's kind of how we did it here, but I don't see it happening if we have a total collapse, especially if it's a financial collapse. It's not, there's no way it's going to happen.
Well, I saw a video. Balkanization of America. I recommend everybody read it, but it basically says that there's 7 separate countries inside the United States because of how each one thinks and decides and interprets different things differently. For example, Washington, Oregon, California would be what they call the West Coast state.
Well, they wouldn't even be their whole states either,
Huh?
because the northern half of California and the southern half of Oregon want to be a different state. They want to be this, they want to form their own state. The eastern half of Idaho and Washington want to form their own state. So it'd be these. I think it would be closer to 12 than 7. But yeah, I think it's. But our states are the size of countries in Europe. They're massive.
Texas is the size of France.
Like, people don't realize how big America is. Like, on the map, doesn't look that big. It is massive.
It's massive. It's massive.
And Canada is too. But
yeah,
it's so cold up there that you get to a certain point in the long latitude. It just doesn't make sense to live there. But
yeah.
75% of your country lives below the 49th parallel? Is that what it is?
Oh, geez. I think so. Yeah.
Like, they all live in that Michigan area, New York area.
We're like, like you would see, most of us live like British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, like all like the lower area instead of above. Yeah, for sure. The majority, we're down here for sure. We actually, I saw a video today from Unacceptable Fringe where he's like, yeah, Trump's coming in to buy Canada. And
he would if he could.
Well, yeah, he would if he could. And there's a lot of people that are like, come and help us, because we are under a fascist regime. We really are. And until it, like, that's why I think, like, if we were in that situation, it would be our opportunity to flip it.
Geography wise, most people don't realize it, but Austin is the same latitude as Cairo, Egypt.
Oh.
New York City is the same latitude as Rome, Italy.
Is it really?
In Germany, if you bring it across latitudinally, would end up in the middle of the Hudson Bay.
Yeah.
No way.
If people don't realize Europe is so much further north, like the island of Bermuda, you get there by flying through New York. But everyone thinks it's a tropical, because of how. But yeah, people don't realize how much further north Europe is than America.
I got to brush up on my geography.
Okay, y'all, we're at an hour and 2 minutes. Okay. Gosh, we've got 25 people watching. What a night! Wow, thank you for your comments. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah,
chat has been just phenomenal. Thank you so much in chat. Just doing a great job in chat. I do want to point out one thing, and there was a comment by Holly Ivans, if I can find it. Here it is. And so Holly says that her husband will be passing soon. He's prepared and saved by Jesus. He just wants me to be strong-minded. I've learned so much from him getting sick. Well, Holly, I'm going to add you to my prayer list, if you don't mind. Yeah. And, we pray. I know that the passing of a loved one, especially when you're involved in the process, can be devastating. And it can be physically exhausting as well. So you're in our prayers. If there's anything we can do to help you along this trek, just seek us out. If you need a place to run to, call me. Message me, text me, whatever. We are here to take care of each other. That's God. I had a dream Monday night. For those of you who are religious, you can listen. For those of you who aren't, turn your speakers off for a minute. I had a dream Monday night, and I was talking to the deacon about it. And he says, every once in a while we get these mystical experiences. My dream was basically in Matthew, we were given 2 commandments that Jesus gave us. He gave us the commandment to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. Mm-hmm. And the second commandment is equal to, and it says, and a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you. Now, if we go to the last of John, it says, go ye therefore and baptize all nations in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. So my dream was, we only have 2 purposes on this earth. Number 1, to get to heaven, and number 2, to take other people with us.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's our 2 goals. And we do that in how we show love of God to our fellow human beings.
Absolutely.
So that's why when I end the show, I say what I do, because I believe it. We have to take care of each other
Yes.
because nobody else is going to take care of us.
That's right.
So
Yeah. Amen.
I'm going to stay on after this, after we end this with everybody this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will come back. We're going to have a discussion about whether we're going to do this. I really hate to ask for John and Tamara's time every weekend. I'm going to try to come up with a schedule so that John can go hunting and Tamara can run a business. And,
no, I had a great time. Thank you so much
fun.
for the invite. And it was just a pleasure to spend some time with the both of you and engage in this really great conversation. It was great. And I'm very grateful. So thank you so much.
so
yeah, I liked it too. I enjoyed it. And part of this conversation will probably end up in some of my books at some point.
Fantastic. I'm going to start to read your books.
So yeah, that's why I like doing stuff like this, because I learn a lot.
Tammy, are you still on?
Terry.
No.
God. You know, I've called her Terry every time I've had an interaction with her, except for twice tonight. I can't believe that. Terry, would you do me a favor? Would you put the link to your website so people can access John's books before we close everything down? I would greatly appreciate that. And then also, if somebody would put in the link for prepping communities, I guess I could do that.
I'm sure Natural Born Prepper is watching. I'm sure Natural Born Prepper can put it on there too.
We don't. I'll have to make him a.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A moderator, and same thing with Tammy.
Yeah, we hope that people will come and join our platform for sure.
Same thing with Terry. So we'll have to make both of them moderators so that they can put links in. Listen, if you've got a channel and the channel is promoting decency and survival skills and preparedness, then please always feel free to put your link on my channel because we got to find a way where we can do this together. So we will let you know. It's probably going to be the second and fourth Saturdays of the month. We're probably not going to do it every Saturday. I don't want to capitalize on people's time too much, but we're probably going to, I'm looking at maybe 2 nights a month. We'll discuss that afterwards when we get together after the show. In the meantime, thank you, all of you, for being here. Do me a favor, come back after the show and put a comment down below, and then share this with your friends so that they can see some of the wonderful discussions that we have from some highly capable people. So with that being said, remember that we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please continue to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other because togetherness is the only way. Take care, everybody. Thank you for being here. Good night.